October 25th. October 25th. I swear it was just the other day. It's October 1st. How did that happen? Times, as I get older, time just flies. You know, I don't know. I used to hear that growing up, and I'd roll my eyes. But you see, after a while, you begin to see the wisdom if you listen to others. Okay, so our word for today, for October 25th, 2020, is listen. Shh, listen. In the quiet of my heart, I listen for the voice of Spirit. Will you join me in that affirmation together? In the quiet of my heart, I listen for the voice of Spirit. Take a deep breath. And let's repeat together. In the quiet of my heart, I listen for the voice of Spirit. During the course of a busy day, I may hear all kinds of things. Conversations, music, sounds from nature, traffic noise, and even my constant self-talk. Sometimes all that I'm hearing may numb me to the more intentional act of listening. As I listen, I become aware of the voice of Spirit. Its comforting, guiding presence feels like a homecoming. Have you felt that before? Will you just get into that beautiful space? As I settle into a tranquil environment and begin to relax my body and mind, I create a welcoming space for listening to the assuring, discernible as my inner knowing. I breathe deeply and I rest in the silence and in this space. I go about my day listening attentively to the voice of Spirit expressing through all the people in my life. And Luke 11:28, it reads, "Blessed rather are those who hear the word of God and obey it." So it is. On to our wisdom quotes this morning. Our first wisdom quote is from A Course in Miracles, and it is, "The Holy Spirit's voice is as loud as your willingness to listen." Next. Shh, listen. The quieter you become, the more you hear. And Proverbs 3:6 reads, "Listen for God's voice in everything you do. Everywhere you go, God is the one that will keep you on track." Shh. Listen. Shh. Listen. We hear so much, but are we listening to the still small voice? Our lesson today is about listening. Our daily words focus was on listening for the voice of Spirit as well, and that brings up all kinds of questions. How do you hear the voice of Spirit? Biggest question is, do you believe that God speaks to you personally? Do you think that God speaks to you personally? Anybody? Anybody here? God is constantly speaking to us, but are we listening? Next. If so, how? How do we hear God's voice? Do you have conditions that need to be met for you to hear that still small voice of Spirit? Are there certain things you have to have in place? Like, do you have to have a candle that's lit? Do you have to have an altar? Do you have to, turn the music off? I mean, what are your conditions? I have come to understand that God is always guiding and directing each of us to the highest and best, in the highest and best fashion. There's just no question about it in my life, and I see it working within everybody else's life that is around me. I truly, truly see this. Next. And the challenge is, are we listening? Are we listening? And if we are listening, are we following the wisdom and guidance that we hear? If not, why? Like I said, you're hearing stuff all the time, but are you listening? Whole different activity. Moving on. Many people say that they have challenges in knowing God's guidance. They say that they have a problem in meditating because their minds keep bringing up other things to focus on. Anybody, does that happen to you? Every hand I think around here pretty much is up. Next. This is known as your monkey mind. Your subconscious is trying to speak to you, all right? It's trying to keep your attention on, just you. And it's the monkey mind that keeps going and going and going. Next. You all know that the endless chatter in your head, it is constant and may seemingly be impossible to quiet. I know especially in those times where you're going through something, it's hard to get your mind to quiet down. So I'm going to give you a couple tips here today. One reason may be that you find it difficult to control your monkey mind is that you're trying to control it. Let me say that again. If you have problems with the thoughts that keep running through your mind and that you can't get yourself centered in, it's because you're trying to control those thoughts. They're not to be controlled. They're supposed to just come up to be released. It's a part of the processing part of our soul, and part of the process of our awakening is for these thoughts to come up, not to be held on, but to be released. Next. The thing most people do when trying to hear the voice of God is to shut something in order to hear. But just think about that very action itself. If you're trying to shut something out, isn't your attention all about shutting stuff off rather than being open to listening to God? Next. Whatever, you've heard this a million times, but see how it affects you in your life really and truly, daily. What is it that you're resisting? And is it persisting? Yeah. I don't care. Just like we have this thing about this coronavirus stuff going on in our world. And we resist, all of that stuff. And it just is staying here. What happens when we allow ourselves to ease, allow everything to be just as it is, not living in fear, not giving anything any power, still protecting ourselves in perfect and right ways? We have nothing to worry about. We really and truly have nothing to worry about. But just remember, whatever you are resisting, you're giving power to that which you are resisting. And it will stay there until you stop it. Next. This is also the same sort of thing. I want you to think about a pink elephant. Okay? Got a pink elephant in your head now? Next. Next. So what do you think about now? Pink elephant. Okay, it's really very simple. Life, friends, is so simple if you allow it to be so. Stop making up all this stuff to keep you riled up. Life is simple. Be at peace. Next. The secret, I'm telling you, the secret to quieting the monkey mind is to give it permission to run. When you go into your time of meditation, when you go into your time of prayer, give yourself some time just to listen to what all is coming up. Just listen to it. You don't have to participate. It's not inviting you into its living room. It's just thoughts. Please hear this. Thoughts are just thoughts. They have no power except for the power you give those thoughts. Period. Next. Give yourself about 15 minutes, if you will. Write down those things. I'm going to be skipping through this kind of quick, Tina. Okay. Give yourself about 15 minutes. Write down. If you've got a problem going on in your life, write it down. Get it out of you. It's a marvelous, marvelous tool so that you can become so open and receptive to actually listening to what Spirit is. How can you hear Spirit if you're constantly talking? Just allow the thoughts to come up to be released. And at some point, you will get to that place of oneness. That holy place. And it is in that holy place that you receive the beautiful guidance. And it comes from all different types of ways. How are you limiting God and God's guidance? How are you limiting that? Does it have to be a certain way? Next. See what we have here. Next. There's no need on these thoughts to judge them. One way or another, they're just thoughts. Next. Just listen to what your monkey mind is saying, and with the intention of allowing the thoughts just to rise. Life is a matter of your intention. If you're going back to relive something, guess what? You're going to relive it emotionally. Mentally and emotionally, you're going to relive it. But what if you go in and say whatever it is in the past to come up to be released? It's a whole different conversation. It frees you. It actually allows that energy up and out of you so that you can then listen. I mean, really and truly listen to hear, and then the question is, are you going to follow? That's one of the big fears. One of the biggest fears that we have is that we're going to receive some guidance and we don't want to do it. Have you ever been there? It's like, I don't even know if I want to go to God with this one because I'm afraid I know the answer, you know? But you see, you already know the answer because you and God are one. God has that answer in you. But you can't be fearful of listening. The next thing is, it's so important for us to understand that we have got to not only listen, but then we sometimes have to take action. We have to take action on it. Some people like to sit on the couch and say, God, bless me with all this financial windfall, blah, 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 blah. And they never get off the couch. I mean, if it was delivered to their door, they're still on the couch. Are you listening to the inner promptings? Your inner promptings are the best thing that could ever happen to you. But it is important for us to remain open, to listen. And it comes not only from within us, we get prompted from the things outside of us. How many times have you ever had a person come up and was just talking with you out of the clear blue sky, you get the answer? Is it that person gave you the answer? No, it's Spirit giving you the answer because you are tuned in. Most people are tuned into this physical world. And that's fine. We need to be aware of our surroundings because we are navigating as spiritual beings through all of this. But it's so important to understand is that first you're spiritual. And to understand and listen to that voice of Spirit saying, take a left here. Or when someone comes to your mind, take a moment to pray for them at least. And if it continues to come on, come to you, make a phone call. Make a phone call. I can't tell you. Well, I will tell you a story. Just recently, I'm getting this feeling going on inside of me that something was going on within my family, but not my close family, but my the family that is part of my life. And I got that feeling going on in me. It's like, something's going on. So finally, after, I give it 1, 2, 3 times, you ever do that? First time, okay. Second time, I'm hearing you. Third time, it's like, okay, I got it. And so I made a phone call. And I'm so glad I did because I was able to talk to a cousin of mine whose daughter was going through something really, really, really traumatic. I mean, earth traumatic. And then last evening, his daughter calls. And it was a beautiful thing because we had a conversation that we never would have had before. And I said, why is it that you decided to call? She says, I don't know, but I just felt guided to give you a call. I wish I had given a call a little earlier. You understand what I'm saying with that? But listen to those inner promptings. Listen to those inner promptings. You will know beyond a shadow of a doubt what your next step is. You will know. Now, the last part of listening, and Tina, I'm just moving all the way through this. So the last thing about listening is for you to listen to others. When you're listening to others, realize that you are placed there for a divine reason. God has placed you there to hear what this individual is saying so that sometimes you just need to air things. You don't have to respond. You don't have to tell them what to do, but just listen. There's no threat in that. The threat comes is when you think you have to respond. Spirit already knows the answer. Spirit has brought that person to you. Your job is to listen and to love and to affirm and to walk with them in their journey. So you have to listen to Spirit, though. Spirit says it's time for you to go pick up the phone. Spirit says it's time for you to go check on somebody. Listen to that because they need you as much as you need them. One of the biggest illusions that we have in this universe is that we are somehow separate, but we're not. I can tell you time and time again, being intuitive and being centered, I know many times when something is going on in somebody. They come to mind. And so take that stuff seriously. Listen to what they're saying. 9 times out of 10, they're hurting. They just need to be heard. And you, my friend, can be that gift of God to them as others are that gift of God to you. Namaste. So, we're going to move all through all of these. I do want you to stop at the last slide of this, because this is something that came. Now, talking about listening to Spirit, this morning I was on Facebook, and I got this message that showed up. I mean, it was like the second one on my wall. You got it? This one. And this is what it said. When you pray, God listens. When you listen, God talks. When you believe, God works. That's so powerful. And it is so true. Let's prepare our hearts and minds now to move into that place in unity we call the silence. And this is our way to connect to by releasing ourselves from all of the outside stuff, to seek the presence of God so that we can hear that still small voice. Seldom do I ever hear it during meditation. My answers come later on, but I create that space. I invite you to do the same.